What are some things rich kids won't understand growing up? Having your parents borrow money you saved up to pay the bills. That living paycheck to paycheck is an actual thing. Late payments and having cell phone, electricity, water cut off. Visiting cash advanced stores with your parents. Having Metro PCS, the amount of unsupervised alone time spent growing up. Both my parents worked all day and couldn't afford summer camp or anything like that. In the summers I would just hang out in the house alone or with the other neighborhood kids while the parents were at work. Having no money for Christmas trees, fireworks, Halloween costumes to celebrate holidays. If I break this, rich kids can never understand the pain, humiliation, helplessness and sadness of seeing your mom walk in the door with a box of food that you know she had to beg the food bank to let her have. Thinking about this now makes me upset still. But when I was a kid it was a fact of life that I was too young to embrace the burden of. Times like that made me grow up way too fast. While other kids might have just complained and bitched about frivolous. Seeing my mother go through that really left me feeling upset and helpless. Being outcasted in an activity because you can't afford it, field trips, movies, etc. The shame involved in not being able to participate in those activities. Or knowing that your parents SCR paid up literally every last penny they had so you could go on a field trip. I remember in 2nd grade my mom gave me a coin purse full of all of her change to pay for the trip. The teacher made fun of me in front of the class for handing her so much change. Huh? Mom moved heaven and earth to make that happen. Knowing how long different places take to cash a check. Low on gas and broke. The co-op takes a week to cash the check so you are safe. Also how to hook up grill propane tanks up to your water heater or furnace. My husband was baffled when I looked at hookups when we were house shopping just in case. It was a moment I realized we had very different childhoods. Buying their own school clothes. I'm mid-20s and still wearing clothing I had in middle school. I just can't bring myself to spend money on clothes. Socks and underwear are about the only things I replace annually. Sometimes I'll buy a t-shirt at a special event. Going to grandma's house just because. And realizing that it's because there's no food at your house and grandma wants to make sure you've eaten dinner. How awesome it is to buy a cheap Honda that'll run forever. Some people think they need to change cars every 5 years or something. Drives me insane. Co-workers bugged me non-stop on when I was going to finally get rid of my 93 Camry for a new car. Geez. I don't know. How about when it finally breaks down or the repairs outweigh the cost of keeping it? Pretending you're not even hungry and that's why you're not eating lunch. Moving past all the usual material stuff. One thing that sucked for me growing up was that I couldn't just up and go places when invited. Even if it was free or their parents covered the cost of the activity. My mother was always broken though we had a car. Gas was reserved for the work commute only. I couldn't just get a ride from my mom and she never had spare change for the bus. Every dollar was accounted for. I got a lot of come to the movies with us. And don't worry I'll pay for you, just be across the city by 5:30. It sucked having to explain yet again that no money meant no money for anything. Even a ride. Edit. Jesus Christ. You guys. I didn't expect this. You're all amazing. Trying to respond to everyone's messages. Thanks for all the kind words. Filing out FAFSA without the help of your parents. I never filled out the FAFSA just because my father refused to share his tax documents with me. He didn't want me giving away everything he had ever earned. I could have gotten a $3 an hour raise thanks to work study, but no. He wouldn't let the government be allowed to see his tax forms. An idiot piece of... No. Mark, I can't spend a semester in Europe. That Santa doesn't visit some kids. The worst was after the break. When the teachers at school would go around the room and ask what everyone got for Christmas. Having to lie about getting a gift always stung a bit. Thinking your parents hate you because of their short tempers. that graduating from high school going to university is a really big deal for some people. I went to school with rich kids. They didn't get it when I said my parents wouldn't allow me to do something or that I didn't have money. My family is planning our first abroad trip next year. It'll be the first time anyone in my family has been out of the country, and we're staying at a family friend's family's house. I knew kids that regularly take summer vacations for 2 months, stopping everywhere between London and Fiji. It's funny how these kids think it's strange that I'm so excited for a week vacation a year and a half in advance. Saving up lunch money to buy something. When I was young and super poor, my rich friends would get mad at me for not having the money to do things with them. From their perspective, I was just ditching them all the time. More recently, my who comes from a wealthy family, and I have been making common law official and moving towards being married, and he totally freaked out about the fact that I have student loans. Apparently he didn't realize that a kid who grew up below the poverty line wouldn't have school paid for them in full. In other words, rich kids don't seem to get that money can be scarce. The feeling of being able to afford your first pair of nice sneakers that you wanted for like a year. Appreciating great meals and nice clothes. But I can't say for sure since I don't know how rich kids feel about these things. Maybe they experience similar feelings. Having your entire wardrobe consist of the clothes your older, much taller brother grew out of. That and only ever getting to stay in a Motel 6 when traveling. Edit to add. I'm talking about the Motel 6 of the 1980s. Which were usually around $25 to $30 a night. Where you were lucky if there was a complimentary bar of soap in the bathroom and pillows on the bed that didn't have mystery brown and yellow stains on them. Close bracket. Edit part 2. My siblings and I would have rather camped out than sleep in a Motel 6 back then. Then we wouldn't have been squished into a double bed made of cardboard and shame. Or worry about getting hepatitis from the bed sheets. The overwhelming excitement when your parents can afford a new video game for you. Edit. Man. You guys are bringing me back. It was such a unique feeling. Getting that annual new game. It was like a huge door being opened. It felt so adventurous. Sweeter memory than my first love. I guess that makes it my real first love. How good beans and cornbread really is. It's weird also dealing with these people in your early 20s. Where broke to them means only getting the cheap beer at the bar or only ordering takeout once or twice a week. Or, no. I can't just call my parents for money when I'm stretching things pretty thin. It's mind-blowingly frustrating at times. Not having anything to eat except Kraft dinner and canned soup. Begging your parents to buy you a toy from the dollar store. Apparently it is not a common thing to only get new toys on your birthday and on Christmas if you're well off. And to add on to that, paying for half of your birthday gift because your parents wouldn't be able to afford the bills if they spent all of the money on it. How you haven't been more than 2 states away from your home state. And haven't been out of the country. How being poor drains you of motivation and self-respect. And makes opportunities harder to take. How eating food and living in a place makes you feel like, and how hard it can be to break out of that. People who have always been rich have never felt that. So they assume that being poor is just the same as being rich without having money. And that if they were ever poor they would just work their way out of it while remaining chipper. But it's not that easy. Having no money is insidious and it affects your whole outlook and personality. On a more positive note, how once you get some money you have an iron determination to never be poor again. Which can make you work harder and better than the rich kids. Being poor can also give you respect for the value of money. And stops you wasting it. Also, when I was poor I was somehow closer to the people who I lived around. We were poor together and we partied together in squats with out of dates either. Adding water to empty shampoo bottle to get more shampoo. Not being able to go out to eat at any time. No Natalie. I'm not getting food with you for the 50th time today. I'm broke. Just how much you appreciate things and getting all the usage you can out of the things it took saving money for. My parents couldn't always afford games. But the few I had for the PlayStation 2 definitely got their use out of them. Never upgraded. Just kept playing it for over 12 years. Still dig it up every once in a while for nostalgia's sake. I remember going nuts when I finally got a memory card for Christmas. Meanwhile, I knew kids at school that would drop their system in a heartbeat and go get whatever console had just come out. That when you turn 16 you don't get a car. You just get to be 16. Ketchup sandwich. Adding water to milk. Only getting new toys on your birthday or Christmas. Usually from another family member such as uncle or grandparent. Full stop. 49-cent hamburger day, which turns to days, at McDonald's. Having McDonald's was one of my favorite experiences. As a kid, I grew up eating a lot of soup and rice. Hunting was a necessity. If we wanted a reliable source of meat for the year. Getting caught asleep in the woods during hunting season was grounds for a good belting. When we would splurge on McDonald's it was a real treat. It's definitely carried over into adulthood. I look at Applebee's as an extravagant outing. But the general attitude I see is that it's garbage. Trying to cook and serve dinner loud enough to cover up the sound of your mom crying in her bedroom because she can't afford to pay the electricity this month. Putting on a cheerful face and acting super chipper for your younger siblings as you pack your bags to stay at a roach-infested motel because no electricity will get you all taken away by CPS. Walking 5 miles round trip to buy dollar store groceries on your food stamps because your mom can't afford the car or the bus. Walking 7 miles round trip to see the Medicaid doctor after being without your medication for 3 months because that's how long it takes to get an appointment. Having to pack everything you've ever owned into 2 bags. Trying to decide what portions of your life can go in the garbage can. Because your landlord died and your family got evicted. Utilities that are not on. How I've had this phone for coming up for 5 years. Good ol' iPhone 4, why don't you upgrade? Having to switch the batteries and the remote for something else to work. Why my house was so small. I got made fun of because my house was so small. Like a garage size. Sorry I didn't live in a mansion like the rest of them. Come on. We had a living rooms. Never had to share rooms with siblings and one guest room, but it was still so tiny to them. Like so tiny they almost missed it and thought it was someone's shed. And as you get older, why I didn't go out eating with them all the time? Or I like seafood, right? Why didn't I just order the bucket of seafood instead of the chicken club sandwich? I wasn't poor growing up, solid middle class background. But compared to them I might as well have been. Edited to clarify, my house wasn't even that small. It was normal sized. But to those rich girls it was the size of their garages. Not being able to do something because of a lack of money. I hate that my kids have missed out on so many things because we simply didn't have extra money to pay for it. Sports. Camps. School t-shirts. School photos. After school programs. School trips. Pool passes. etc. It sucks. For us as parents and for them. I've seen their friends and their friends' parents who have more money just not understand at all, as if we can just pull an extra $100 out of thin air. Sure, we could. But then there would be no food that week. The flip side is our kids are extremely grateful when we can do something extra. And I have seen some of their friends be ungrateful brats because they just expect to be able to do whatever. Because money isn't an issue. But it still sucks. Edit. Just to say thank you for all the support and kind words. Did not expect this at all. And I really needed it. I'm a little, okay. A lot, choked up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Saving up to get the cool toy. Playing cards. Or something similar. When I was little my parents bought things for me on birthdays. But we definitely were not rich. Nothing was better than saving to get a new pack of playing cards and rifling through it to see what new ones you got. 2 of the richer kids in my class got cards all the time. Yet they didn't mean much to them since they could have new ones whenever. They'd lose them and damage them and it killed me. Okay, so I guess this is only in America only. But getting a serious injury and trying to make it look like no big deal so you avoid people asking stuff like how long did your doctor say it would take to heal? Full stop. Because you don't have insurance and the smallest medical expense would put your family in debt. So you never got it checked out. Seriously. I've broken my foot and not even gotten crutches. Could barely walk but I had to tough it out and look like nothing was wrong. That is goddamn insane. From a UK perspective. Getting off-brand stuff. I didn't have a PlayStation. I had a Polystation. 9,000 games. Really 5 games repeated 1,800 times. Loved that. You can tell how rich or poor someone is by how easily they spend $20. 0. Rich kids spend $20 like the middle class would spend 5-10. And like how the poor would spend 1-5. Working in retail. I've seen a number of them actually do that. Maybe they're not the rich everyone is thinking but definitely upper middle class. Anyway. They're usually the worst employees because they know that they don't actually need the job and if worse comes to worse, their parents will easily and quickly bail them out. Looking for rocks that you can use a permanent marker on to turn them into monsters. New toys only happened on Christmas or birthdays. So we improvised. I would like to state that as a kid who grew up being able to do a lot of the things that people in this thread say they couldn't, and I would like to say that I am honestly humbled by the fact that things I thought mundane, like having electricity, food every night, a vacation once a year and the ability to get lifts everywhere from my parents, are to some of you a dream you can't not realize, and I would honestly like to offer my condolences. And if you are an Australian and live somewhere close to the Gold Coast, I would love to offer you a free holiday at a beach house there. I'm happy to provide a week's worth of food and a little 5-seater car to help out if those things would make or break it. If this is something that would be beneficial to someone here and I know it's a long shot, then DM me and we can arrange it. Christmas is just another day. Might be late to the party. But a huge social difference I see frequently is a deeply rooted belief of wealthier people. That you are safe. That no matter what happens, you are going to be fine. Even when hit by a huge unpredictable bill that hurts their personal finances. They don't despair. Because they know the money will return soon. It always did. They can wreck cars. Lose phones. Get fired or be unemployed for months. But it's okay. And they are okay. And they never know how it is to feel truly desperate. Or terrified of consequences of this little setback. And somehow this attitude is actually what keeps them cool and confident, and eventually they pick up the pieces much better than the poor would. It's like they're psychologically conditioned to be optimistic. I don't understand the question. My father will hire someone to deal with this problem. You'll hear my official answer later. Having to work and study simultaneously. I'm studying for school while working 35-hour week as a cashier. And whenever I complain to a rich person about struggling to balance the two, they're always like, duh. Just quit your job. As if I can generate rent money out of thin air. How great the most mundane food tastes when you are hungry. Plain bread with clean drinking water is delicious. Buying the off-brand products for things like soda. When I was in high school, this douchebag Craig wanted a drink and I took a Publix brand cream soda out of the fridge for him and he looked at me with a WTF face and how Thai grocery brand soda is. Craig. Patience. I had to wait and save everything I had to get something I wanted. I find a lot of people who grew up with money have poor impulse control because they need instant gratification. Not poor, but grew up middle class in a rich town, and my parents always taught me to value a dollar. They grew up with a lot less than me. Some of my classmates couldn't grasp that we didn't hire someone to mow our lawn. Or how I didn't just get an Xbox or anything else I wanted and had to mow neighbors' lawns and saved whatever money I could to get one myself. Or why I worked full time every summer from when I was 15 so I could afford my piece of car and gas. I know people older than 21 who still have their parents paying for their gas while they drive the 30k car they bought for them. Other little things like not having a smartphone until senior year when everyone else was on their 4th or 5th one. In general, they were oblivious to the concept of having to work for something or the value of money. Many were oblivious to just how much money their family had too. They didn't think living in $1 million plus home made them wealthy. Getting something expensive on your birthday. One year, my family all led me outside to the shed saying we were all going to clean it. And they opened the doors. There was a brand new silver Mongoose BMX. With pegs. I asked who it belonged to. The excitement of saving up for something you really wanted and expressing lots of gratitude because you knew how long it took to finally receive it. Being afraid of running out of food. Stealing something. Because you need it and then crying about it later. Having a candle day. Because the lights don't work. Sleeping in a coat. Because you can't afford to heat your home. Unplugging the fridge in the winter. Because it isn't necessary. Teaching yourself to fish because you only have $20 anyway, so buy a rod and hope for the best. People shaming you in college for not having to pay tuition. Even though you worked hard as hell to get those need-based scholarships. Not being able to take off work for any reason. What it's like to be hungry and yet so poor that the only thing your mom could make you for dinner is a ketchup sandwich using free ketchup packets taken from McDonald's from that one time that she paid enough loose change to buy one milkshake for you and your 5 brothers for doing good in school. Remember how she made you guys take turns sipping from it so that everyone could get some, but you guys weren't allowed to finish it because you had to save some for when dad came home? You don't remember, do you? I do. That was my life growing up. I'm late to this, but I have to say, having your own room is a premium. I was the rich only child that didn't get why this was important. My best friend in high school had her bed in the hallway of the motel room her dad rented by the week. Just not having a birthday party when your birthday rolls around. Not even a small one where friends come over to your house. Nothing. I grew up during the good years compared to my brother and sister. The situations that my brother and sister tell me they went through are unbelievable. The bad years were when they lived in Mexico. My uncle lived with us. And he was an accountant for a major company in Mexico. And my mother taught histopathology at the local university. She was also the only histopathologist in the entire city. And owned her own laboratory and performed all the biopsies for the entire town. It always struck me as strange that my uncle and mother were very well educated. And yet these were their poor years. The good years. When I was 5 years old, we moved to the United States. These were the good years. My mom went from being a college professor in Mexico to a dishwasher at an IHOP. To this day these 2 timelines in my family's history make no damn sense. I purposely pretend to be less well off than we really are so my kids are more thankful and less expecting to get whatever they want. I complain we can't afford things that we actually can. My colleagues laugh at my tiny old Volvo. But oh well. I simply don't get why people flaunt their money. It has zero upside emo. Have you thought about having them pay for their own luxuries, toys, games, snacks, etc. with their own money earned from helping around the house babysitting, pet sitting? I remember being stressed all the time as a child because we didn't have enough money. And it definitely has some lasting effects. Don't complain to your kids that you can't afford things. It can cause stress on them. Drinking sugar water to stay alive. Showering at the middle school because the water was shut off. Mayo and mustard sandwiches. Overeating at the pizza place my sister worked at because that would be our only meal for the day. Being so excited to be able to spend $2 whole at the dollar store. OMG OMG. Do I get 2 toys or 2 candies or a toy and a candy? And so many other things. I had to explain to my so early in our relationship that not everyone buys perm tags for their license plates. And that poor people renew them every year. My ex. Whose 20k car was bought for and maintained by his parents for him. Didn't understand why I was so bothered by him bumping my car's door into things and fidgeting with bits inside and almost breaking them. I bought that car. I maintain that car. It's in really good nick, but if you scratch and dent it up, that comes out of my pocket. Not yours was a concept that just didn't occur to him. This happened to me as an adult, but it still applies. Some rich chick at work asked me where I was going for vacation one summer. I know where. Because we're broke. Vacations aren't something you're owed by the vacation gods.